So I'm Danny De La Paz, and I'm here today um, having a conversation with an authoress by the name of Erica Ruiz. Is that right,
Yes,
Erica?
yes.
Who's written this book, amongst other books, I might add. And it's essentially a children's book. You sent me this book and I read it, and I really loved it. And not only did I love it, but I realized that I had never seen a book like this before, and that the need for a book like this is probably tremendous in our community and in a lot of other communities as well. And what a beautiful thing that you came with your heart to want to fill this need, to want to help children who are having this experience of having, one or sometimes both of their parents incarcerated. So, if you don't mind, maybe you could say a few things about yourself. I know in the book it says that you got a BA in social science. Is that right?
Right.
And can I just ask you, why did you decide to go in that direction in school? What made you take that path?
I feel like I went through a lot of things myself. And so I was really interested in going through learning more about like psychology, social work field, and just learning a little bit more about helping others. I wanted to just, I guess, educate myself a little bit more as far as like, how can I help others that are struggling in life and things that I had to face.
In the book, you say in the dedication that your book is dedicated to the children who need to be understood, to be given a voice, and you tell them that they are not alone.
Right.
And then you go on to say, may this book increase awareness about the vulnerable loved ones of those who are incarcerated, and may it bring some peace and comfort to all who are emotionally affected by that incarceration. Wow, that's something that's so beautiful to give, especially to children.
Right.
I imagine there must be literally thousands upon thousands of kids who are of the age, maybe they're 3, 4, 5 years old, and not able to understand where did their dad go, or where did their mom go, or sometimes both. Like you have a situation here where you talk about you have somebody that gave you a testimonial, and she talked about how they took both her parents.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll rewind a little bit on all of that. So as I got older, I was a caregiver. So I ran my own daycare for a few years, and I've been working with children and families for a very long time. And so throughout that time, I got a lot of parents asking me certain topics, like, how do I talk to my kids about this? And that was one of the reasons why I came up with this topic as well. So I got to know a lot of like women that have children that have suffered through that. And so like seeing the children go through what they went through, like during visiting, not wanting to leave and all of that, it just kind of encouraged me to write this book. And then number two, I guess I feel like I didn't have a voice growing up. And I feel like kids are often not given that full like acknowledgement, like I feel like their kids need to be acknowledged, because when you do that, you kind of take the voice away from the child.
Yes.
And so, I wanted to put that in there.
Don't you think too that a lot of problems, emotional problems, develop in children when one or both of their parents are locked up, and they don't have the support and the love that they need from those people being in their life? Don't you think that does have an effect on them?
It definitely does. And actually, when I was working on this book, I got a lot of feedback from a few people that I knew that were incarcerated. At that time, I was going to the Victory Outreach Church, and there was this one young man that said, well, he was an older guy, but he did a lot of time in prison, like 25 plus years. and I was getting feedback on my book, and I remember him telling me like, I really wish there was a book like this when I was locked up, because I could have shared this with my kids during that time, and there was no type of resource so like on point like this. And that made me feel even more encouraged, like, oh man, like thank you for that feedback, because that's giving me more of like the wanting to publish this book. I hadn't even published it yet at that time. And when I finally did publish it and it went out, I got a lot of emails. I got people hitting me up like on Instagram, Messenger. So that's where that young lady comes up. She's 15 years old, and she sent me a message on Instagram, and she sent me a huge long message. And she was just telling me like, I wish there was something like this when both my mom and my dad went to jail. And she started telling me a little story about her and how she had to go through the adoption agency, like the system, foster care. And because her grandma couldn't take care of her at that time. So it's like, there's so many things that happen and that are not even talked about. For example, big things like that. So she encouraged me to want to write, even more books about that. Like, what do we teach our children? How can we be more there for them? And in order to like prevent further trauma from happening, or breaking that cycle,
And I think also in order to encourage healing,
right,
children. That's the one thing I thought when I read your book was, wow, this is just a wonderful thing in terms of its power to heal everyone in the family, but especially the kids, and to make them understand and to not feel like it's their fault or that they are in any way responsible for the choices that their parents have made.
And I like that in the back of the book, I added a little something where it actually stimulates the communication about, the situation. So I added here where both the parent can bond a little bit more with the child and talk about their feelings. So I added here a special place where it says, how do you feel?
Yes.
Write your feelings here. How do you feel? So I think like this part is so much more intimate for the
and also
children.
where you have about putting their pictures in.
Yeah, I love that one.
Oh my God, that one
I
really
do.
got me, because now that's really going to be very healing and positive, because they'll be able to look at their father or their mother who's locked up, not as somebody that's bad, but to still find a way to realize that they are still loved by these people, loved by their mother and father.
Yeah, so they can add the picture next to the cartoon ones, and it just makes them more intimate and personal.
And it makes them feel better. That's the healing that I'm talking about. I think it's just a beautiful thing. I have to commend you on this book. It's a wonderful book. And that's the reason why I approached you and said, maybe we could do this little short conversation just to maybe get it out there on social media and encourage people to get a hold of your book, encourage educators and parents who have children whose parent is locked up to read the book and to share it with their children. I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do, and I commend you for doing it. It seems like all those all your education and your experience, as a human being, is what's gone into you making this book. But as you're reading it, you can feel the love. You really can. I could feel where you were coming from when you wrote it. So I didn't really have to ask you why you wrote the book, because I knew immediately from reading it why you wrote it. I knew that you wanted to help people. I knew that. And then when I saw the fact that you got your degree in social science, it made total sense to me, So I think maybe now that we've discussed the book and, the reason why you wrote it and everything, maybe you could say a little bit more about yourself and what you intend to do in the future, or where you're going. Or you said you spoke earlier about maybe continuing your writing and publishing other books. I know you've published other books besides this one. You have future projects as well, no?
I do. So, so I'm a teacher. After I took my degree, I became a teacher, and then I ran my own business as a daycare owner. And I also help other people publish their own books on top of that. And I got my nonprofit number, my 501c3 last year during the pandemic when everybody was on Zoom. Like I've had other classes with the book as well. Like I've had other children in there. And so I wanted to make it a nonprofit. And so I have a total of 14 books right now. 3 of those are healing journals for adults. So I would say like it would totally benefit the parents as well. The rest of them are children's books. And I am in the process of also building a healing center. So hopefully that's a really big project right there. But I do have a 2-acre land in Lancaster, which is probably like an hour away from Los Angeles, from where I live. And eventually I want to make that into a healing center, so like I can have more events there, like live events, and you know, be able to get the community together, support each other on more healing programs, you know, to offer to not just the children but the family together.
And you can do classes there and workshops
nature,
and educate people there about how to deal with, you know, the situations that they're in.
Right.
I imagine a lot of parents are at a loss in terms of how to communicate with their children about something like this. Your book just, you know, opens up that conversation. It just, instead of sweeping it under the carpet, it kind of just rips the carpet up and holds a light onto it, you know?
Right.
And I think that's what the kids need to heal. They don't need to have their voices silenced.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
They need to acknowledge their own feelings as well.
Yes. And I also created all of my books on a YouTube channel. So I read the book to them as I animate it. So they're able to see like a cartoon version as they follow with the book. So I think that's also a really good idea for the smaller kids that can't read yet. They really like that. And I do get a lot of feedback from the parents. They send me pictures with the kids or short little videos. I know that fills my heart, because when I see that, it just makes me feel like I'm doing something in this lifetime to make a difference, you know, in the children and the families. And sometimes it brings tears to my eyes, like, you know, because every child deserves to be loved and given that attention, like, you know, and we were all children ourselves. So I feel like we all carry that inner child inside too.
And speaking of that, I'll share something personal with you. When I was making American Me and we were in Folsom Prison, because we shot, you know, we had a 10-week shooting schedule for the actual filming.
Yeah.
And the first 3 of those 10 weeks was up there in Sacramento in Northern California, where Folsom is. And we were inside the prison. And one day I was in there, all the inmates were out in the yard, and I was in there where the tiers of cells were. And there's against the wall there's a long bench. And I sat on the bench and I just looked up at, I think there was 3, maybe 4 tiers, I can't remember exactly now, of empty cells. And in my mind, I could picture all these little boys behind bars in those cells. That's what I saw in my mind. I had this vision of all these sad little boys that just needed love and guidance and to have a sense of self-esteem and security. That's what I saw when I was sitting in that room. I just thought, wow, that's the kind of thing that happens when a child doesn't have what they need in those years when it's so important, you know, when they're developing. So that's, I guess, part of the reason why I felt such an affinity for your book, because I know that inner child is something that I've tried to take care of all my life. Because I also grew up in, you know, a family situation where there was alcoholism and, you know, there was violence. And when you're a kid, it's hard to process that. You don't understand why are mommy and daddy fighting, or why are your older brothers and your father physically fighting in the house, and why is there blood and people's fists going through glass windows, and you don't understand that. It gets very scary. And of course,
Right.
there was nobody there to explain it to me, to help me understand it. So anything that would help a child to feel better about himself and
Right.
help them to navigate a situation like this, or let's say their father was taken away from them at a young age, has got to be a good, positive thing. So I really if I had one, take my hat off to you for having, done what you did, and not just this book, but other books as well. And I sincerely hope that you continue to do what you're doing, and that your dream of having this center can be realized one day. I think that's something that's so beautiful and something that's so needed, and not just our community, but a lot of communities. So good for you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to say regarding your book, or that's something I didn't cover?
I'll just mention that I do have a website, and it's called strongfamilybond.com. So if anybody
strongfamilybond.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And your name is Erica Ruiz, Ruiz, and you're on Instagram.
Yes.
And you're on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay. Are you on Twitter too, or no?
I do have a Twitter, but I'm hardly on it. So I guess the easiest way to contact me would be through my email that's listed on my website.
Okay. So if people want to get a copy of the book, get a hold of the book, that's important. Where do they go?
Yeah, so they go on that website and they can place the order directly there.
Okay.
And I can personally autograph it to either them. A lot of times it's a gift, so they can just let me know who they want me to sign it off to as well.
Okay.
I also have it on Amazon.
Oh, it's on Amazon as well?
It's on Amazon as well. But I do, a lot of people like me to sign it or personalize it. So you can get it in the website for that.
Okay. Well, gosh, thank you so much for, speaking with me about your work and about what you're doing, especially about this book. I really love this book, Erica. It's a beautiful thing. And I want to encourage everyone to please get a copy of it and read it, especially people that need it. So thank you. Thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Danny. I really appreciate you and your time. Yeah, thank you for supporting me through this.
Keep doing what you're doing, because you're on the right path. It's a beautiful thing. Anytime you can help other people to heal or help them to feel better about themselves, that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny, so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.